Hari Om, everybody.
Hare Om, sir.
So we'll start from the 11th chapter,
Mhm.
stanza number 22. Om At Sri Krishna Paramatmane Namaha At Ekadashodhyayaha Vishwarupa Darshana Yogaha Rudraditya Vasavo Ye Cha Sadhya
रुद्रादित्या वसवो ये च साध्या
Vishveshvino Marutaschasmapaschya Sorry, Marutaschosmapaschya
विष्णुष्मपाश्च
Gandha
विश्वेश्विनो मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च
गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्गा
गन्धर्वयक्षु
गन्धर्वैक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्घा
वीक्षन्ते त्वाम् विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे
वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्च एव
एव सर्वे
रूपम् महत्ते बहुवक्त्र नेत्रम्
रूपं महत्ते बहुवक्त्र नेत्रम्
महाबाहो बहुबाहुरुपादम्
बहुबाहुरुपादम्
बहूदरम् बहुदंष्ट्राकरालम्
बाहुतरं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालम्
दृष्ट्वा लोका प्रव्यतितास्तथाहम्
दृष्ट्वा लोकाः प्रव्यथितास्तथाहम्
नभस्पृशम् दीप्तमनेकवर्णम्
नभस्पृशं दीप्तमनेकवर्णम्
यक्ताननम् दीप्तविशालनेत्रम्
व्यात्ताननं दीप्तविशालनेत्रम्
दृष्ट्वा हि त्वाम् प्रव्यतितान्तरात्मा
दृष्ट्वा हि त्वां प्रव्यथितान्तरात्मा
ऋतम् च विन्दामि शमम् च विष्णो
धृतिं
धृतिं न विद्दामि
विद्यामि च
समं
विष्णो
च विष्णु
संश्राकरालानि च ते मुखानि
दंष्ट्वाकरालानि च
दंष्ट्वाकरालानि च
ते
ते
मुखानि
मुखानि
दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसन्निभानि
दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसन्निभानि
दिशो न जाने न लभे न लभे च शर्म
दिशो न जाने न
न
लभते
लभे
च शर्म
शर्मा
प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास
प्रसीद
प्रसीद
देवेश
देवेश
जगन्निवास
जगन्निवास
अमी च त्वाम् धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः
अमी
अमी
च
च
त्वां
त्वां
धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः
सर्वे सहैवावनिपालसङ्गैः
सर्वे
सर्वे
सहैवावनिपालसङ्गैः
सहैवाग्निपालसङ्गैः
भीष्मद्रोणसूतपुत्रस्तथासौ
भीष्मो द्रोणस्य पुत्रस्तथासौ
भीष्मद्रोणस्सुतपुत्रस्तथासौ
सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः
सहा मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः
वक्त्राणि ते वक्त्राणि ते त्वरमानाभिशन्ति
भक्तानि ते
विशन्ति
परमाविशन्ति
संष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि
दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानि
दंष्ट्राकरालानि
केचिद्विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु
केचित् विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु
सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गैः
सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गैः
सन्तैरुत्तैरुत्तैः।
यथा नदीनां बहवोऽम्बुवेगाः
यथा नदीनां बहवो वेगाः
समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति
समुद्रमेव
समुद्रमेवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति
तथा तवामि नरलोकवीरा
तथा तवामि नरलोकवीरा
विशन्ति विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिज्वलन्ति
विशन्ति वक्त्राण्यभिज्वलन्ति
यथा प्रदीप्तं ज्वलनं पतङ्गा
यथा प्रदीप्तं ज्वलनं पतङ्गा
विशन्ति नाशाय समुद्रवेगाः
विशन्ति नाशाय
विशन्ति
समुद्रवेगाः
तथैव नाशाय विशन्ति लोकाः
तथैव नाशाय
नाशाय
विशन्ति
विशन्ति लोकाः
तवापि वक्त्राणि समुद्रवेगाः
तव
वक्त्राणि
वक्त्राणि
समुद्रवेगाः
समुद्रवेगाः
लेलिह्यसे समानः समन्ताः
लेलिह्यसे प्रसमानः समन्तः
समन्ताः
लोकान् समग्रान् वदनैज्ज्वलद्भिः
लोकान्
समग्रान्
समग्रान्
वदने ज्वलद्भिः
तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समग्रम्
तेजोभिरापूर्य
जगत्समग्रम्
भीसस्तवोग्रा प्रतपन्ति विष्णो
भासस्तवोग्रा प्रतपन्ति
विष्णो
आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो
आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो
नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद
नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद
विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम्
विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम्
न हि प्रजानापि तव प्रवृत्तिम्
न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्
So where did we last class? We were talking about what Arjuna was explaining. So all of these verses are essentially Arjuna's expression as told by Sanjaya. So, right. So here what we're seeing and what was happening there in the earlier verses, back to the 8th verse, right? Krishna gave him the eye of wisdom, Arjuna the eye of wisdom, with which only he said, you can see my rupam. With the normal fleshy eyes, you will not be able to comprehend anything. And so that is where, initial verses that we already talked about was all about awe and wonderment that Arjuna expressed. What he saw there, the rupa, the majestic nature of the Lord that he had never ever seen before. All of that was happening. And slowly he's now getting into more descriptions of it. And this will continue pretty much till the 31st verse. So in the 22nd verse, so here earlier he was talking about all the things that we see in the outer world, in this world, in the physical world that we are in. Now in the 22nd verse, he talks about things that are, of cosmic nature, that you and I don't see, but they all exist. So he refers, and all of these, if you notice, were there covered in the 10th chapter in the forms, right? When he said, I am the Aditya, I am the Vasudeva, I am the Rudra, right? The Adityas, if you remember, are the 12 suns representing the sun or the intensity of the sun every month. And amongst that, I am the one that comes in the summer month and all that, right? He talked about that. So here he says all of those. He talks about Gandharvas, Yakshas, all of them. And he says now that they are also witnessing you. These cosmic forces are also a witness to your Rupa. And they are astonished. Visita, Vismita Chaiva Sarve, all of them are absolutely spellbound, your mouth open, looking at your Rupam. So here we have to, we remember we talked about when we talk about all these forms that exist in the outer world. When I say outer world, the world that we are in, is the world that we all see in the earth form. But we all know that this is just a small part of what exists. And so when we see that, what are the forms that exist in a very subtle form in form of energy, right? First is, of course, the human form, right? Bhuta Loka, right, as we call it. Then there is a Pitra Loka, the ancestral form, when we get into another body. Then we have the Gandharvas. Gandharvas are what? They are the people who, they are said, they are the ones who are meant to give joy to people, put smile on people's faces. Then there are so all of these are one level higher and higher, as we talked about. So Pitru one level higher than human form, Gandharvas one level higher. Yakshas are the people who are supposed to control the finances, control a particular area. It is said that Guruji has said there's a yaksha in every town. There is a yaksha that is making sure things are happening. Invisible forces, but definitely there in every area. And then there is a kinaras. Kinaras are what? People who have power, like you so owners of things, right? Who, when somebody says somebody's rich, owning a lot of things, and they're able to do a lot of things because of that wealth and power, that power has been bestowed to them thanks to the blessings of the kinaras. That is the way to understand it. And then one level above above the kinaras are the devas, the angels as we call it, and those devas and devatas also exist in around us. They also exist in our own body. We've talked about this. And then we have the siddhas, the gurus, the enlightened ones. So or people who have been bestowed, they are at a very superior level. And so one level above devas is them, and of course above the siddhas, above the gurus, above the then is of course the Paramatma. So this is the sequence, that's the order in which he's saying. So here he's talking about all those people, who are in subtle forms outside of the human form that you and I see, right? He talks about Gandharvas, Yakshas, and then he takes those examples there in all of them. So and for us, all of us also, as we understand this one, these are different stages in the evolution, right? To go to the level of a deva, you have to be blessed by the previous people. It is like saying that, when if I have to get a PhD, I have to be blessed by the previous PhDs to be there, right? Because they are the ones who, do your dissertation, etc. Make sure you're ready to become a doctor, get a doctorate degree, isn't it? Similarly, to become a siddha, devas have to bless you. The siddhas that are already there have to bless you. Only then you can reach. So that just to understand that particular aspect here. So here in Krishna is, Arjuna is talking about that these people, these subtle forces are also in awe about your form. So then he goes, so a lot of these verses that we're going to talk about are going to be very direct, very gross, right? So and we can just, and this is just to bring in a certain mentality in each one of us. You might be wondering why it is done that way. So 23rd verse, he's now saying that again describing his form. He says, so many mouths and eyes. Remember, this came up even earlier. So many arms, thighs, feet, stomachs. And earlier it was, about the form awe. Now, slowly, as he sees that there is a ferocity of this form, there is also an element of fear that's coming in, right? And Arjuna is a warrior, right? He's considered the warrior. He can fight anybody. So here he doesn't want to admit that he himself is fearful. So what does he say? He says, Damsha Loka Pravyatitas Tataham. The worlds are, terrified looking at you. When I see him, he says the worlds that he has described, right? All the people who can actually see him, not the others, right? And so am I. I am also terrified looking at this form of yours. And then now he goes on to describe a few more details for us to visualize. I think we can only visualize. We are, of course, not there, but we have to imagine this. I mean, even if we imagine the teeth, not just human beings' teeth of, you know, a tiger or a lion or those carnivorous animals, and the teeth of them compared to a human being, how it is, how gross it is, how terrible it is to just see them. Even on TV, to see the teeth of, one such animal. Imagine here, millions of such are being displayed here in the mouth of the divine. So here he goes on, and therefore he says, um, your form is touching the sky. It is just to see the display, the majesticity of it, how big of a form it is. And it's saying it's Navasprisham Deeptam Aneka Varnam. Aneka Varnam means what? Multiple colors. Of course, colors that we see in nature come from him, right? A rainbow color, rain is done, as part of nature. But those colors are blessed by none other than the divine. So obviously, he's showing that, if you're seeing the colors, it is because of me. Terrible eyes. Have you seen people, right, when somebody is angry and they open their eyes and you see the fire in those eyes? Now imagine all the eyes of thousands and millions of people showing up in one eye, how terrible it will be. He says, therefore, I'm terrified. I just don't have the courage to see this. Right? And all the peace that I had before is gone. So he continues with that. Danshra Karalani. Danshra, you see this word coming in multiple with Danshra. The mouth filled with pus. And he says like Pralaya fire. That means what? Pralaya means what is where everything gets absorbed at the end of your one's life. Or at the end of a Chatur Yuga, as they call it. Everything ends into Pralaya. Right? We've talked about this before. So he says in all of this, I don't have a sense of direction where I am. Right? Am I looking at east, west, north, south, top, bottom? Because everywhere it is you. Right? And it's almost like you're in another world outside of the earth. For me, earth itself is huge. To now comprehend that you're sitting in a space outside of this earth and you're touching heavens or whatever with your hand, it just is mind boggling. And therefore being gracious, right? So he's now surrendered. He's now, how do we look at this surrender? I mean, supposing, let's say, late in the night or early morning, you're sleeping and so some thugs enter your house, because you didn't keep the door locked. And with knife, they're asking, right? What do? You fight with them at that time, right? You just say, take the keys, do whatever, but just please don't harm me or anyone else in this house, isn't it? You just prostrate, bow down, essentially, you have nothing you can do at that particular time. Similarly, here also, that fear that, you know, it's more than awe now. It is now, when is it going to end, right? That kind of a feeling Arjuna has gotten. And now he goes on. Now, the question always that Arjuna has had, and Krishna had said earlier in this same chapter, I'm also going to show you what's going to happen in future. Which future? The future of this war. So that's what is starting in this. So this 27th and 28th verse are together. So the 27th verse talks about all the people, Dhritarashtra, all the kings that come under him, all from different kingdoms that came and supported, that are sitting in the enemy lines right now. And of course, the big names, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and all the warriors that support them. Where? Now that's where there it goes in the 27th verse. They are all going into your mouth. See how he is describing it? They are all going into your mouth. And your mouth is not an ordinary mouth. It has got Paranama Vishanti, terrible teeth. Fearful to even see those terrible teeth and to see the beloved that I've always had respected, my gurus, my grandfather, right? And they're just simply entering. And then look at this particular thing. You just for you to even imagine Vyasa putting this together. He says, Kechit vilagna dashanantareshu sandrishyante churnita ruttamangai. Some of them, they are hanging in the middle of your teeth. Some of these bodies, right, the people that I just talked about, that you're swallowing and eating, they're hanging in the gaps between. It's like, when you see, a tiger, they show in this Animal Planet, right, eating something and it's something is sticking out of its teeth. Similar to that. And then, Sandrishyante churnita. Churnita means powdered form. These heads are getting crushed into powdered form. Very, very gross. Now, the question always will ask, why is this all being described the way it is being described? So, we think certain things are good and bad, isn't it? Good is, somebody smiling, bad is somebody getting angry. But the world is is comprising both of them. In the context of the divine, when I go through a bad phase, there's nothing wrong about it. It was meant to be that way so that I grow when I go through a bad phase. I might say it is a bad phase because I'm going through a stomachache or I'm going through some mental trauma, whatever it is. But if it was meant to be that way so that I wake up and I live a better life, by that definition, it is good. There's nothing like a good or bad. And truth, is not always hunky-dory. Right? We say truth is beautiful, but there is also the scary part about truth. Don't we say hard truth? The truth of the matter is, those of you are managers and you have to tell, your person, you have to let go of a person in your team. The truth of the matter is your performance is under par. Don't we say that in a very easy sense? Because it's a fact. It is there. You can say it is to instill fear, but at the end of it, it is also to awaken all of us that this body, right, that we are in, there is a truth of it is that it is going to go through a phase of destruction. I'm not using even the word destruction. And so coming to terms with it, right, that I am going to die one day is what I think Krishna, Vyasa, all are trying to instill in all of us. And here, might be worth understanding this a little bit, right? So we've talked about this briefly, what happens after death of, let's say, a body. The fear, especially when somebody has not lived a life of, doing practices, good practices, sadhana practices, or they have not kept fear, they've always been agitated, they've always been fearful. That soul also, once it leaves the body, it also goes through a phase of fear, uncertainty. Whenever there is uncertainty in one's life, there is fear, isn't it? Anxiety of what's going to happen. So, in the context of the life after death, it is referred to as Preta Yoni. Preta Yoni, again, all of this is there in Garuda Purana, is a phase where you have left it, you are so attached to the body. But when I leave the body and I'm in the middle of nowhere, it's like, I'm going in a car in a desert. I'm the only person in the car and my car gets stuck. You come out of the car and you see no life anywhere, not even a human being, not even a tree, nothing. How do you feel? Totally lost, isn't it? So that is the reason for such souls to maintain a certain amount of peace. In all cultures, we do the mourning phase. The 10 days of mourning, of course, it is for the people who have lost somebody, but it's also to bring a bit of peace to the soul that is still hovering in that place. It is not yet gone. It has not yet gone to that Pitraloka. So you're praying for the peace, right? That's why we say, right? Let there be moksha, let there be peace. Why do we say that let there be peace? Right? Because it is going through that. And who are the people who go through that uncertain Preta Yoni? Are the people who have always been super bounded, attached to their life, have always looked at life as one of enjoyment, have not seen what it takes to be peaceful, or people who have died of suicide. I've heard this multiple times. A person who dies of suicide, right? He thinks he or she is dying to be peaceful on the other side because he's given up on whatever this life, because he or she cannot handle. But what they don't realize is that once they leave the body, they're going through even a more terrible time than what it was when they were in the body. So they go through this phase. And so in our culture, in almost every culture, there is a period of these 10 days that we normally give, right? And the 10 days are given, and it is like a guideline. It's not like exactly 10 days, by which time, right, the person goes to the other abode. And how it is done through practices, through, certain rituals, through certain invocations, prayers, etc. That is the reason it is done. Now, people who are already peaceful, people who are already in the path, spiritual path, they don't go through the same phase. They may be in the other abode pretty peacefully, within a few days or even the same day that the body leaves, sorry, soul leaves the body. But it's for those people who have gone through troubled life and also have gone through not a peaceful life. For them, especially, this is required. That is the reason they say, have you made sure you've done all these rituals so that they go to the other side? That is the reason those 10 days or 13 days, however, depending on which custom, culture, tradition is used, is essentially to make sure that that soul is not hanging. And I say hanging meaning in an area of uncertainty, that has gone to the other abode and settles. And once it is settled there, There is a thing that we do every month, right? To connect to those ancestors, not only the people who've left, but even the people who went to that abode. And we offer things, and the whole thing is done to bring peace to them. Be peaceful, be peaceful. There is a mantra that we say, Tripyata, Tripyata, Tripyata. Tripyata means what? Be peaceful, be calm, be settled. So there's a lot of meaning, purpose in the things that are done. That's the reason I thought I should mention this. So, um, yeah, going back to what he was saying here, um, you say that there's one word that he has used here. You should understand. Yeah, Jagannivasa, right in the 25th verse. It's abode of the universe. Lot of words that he uses here. So we talked about the Dhritarashtra, all of them that are moving. Now, when you look at all of this, right? How is this whole thing being visualized, right? He's showing something that's going to happen in the future. And for each and every one of us, right? For us, time is linear, right? Linear means this event happened now, this other event is happening later. Not so the case in the context of evolution. Time is considered cyclic in the context. We'll talk about that in little detail later. But time is considered cyclic. So if you take a ball or take a sphere or a ball which is spherical in nature, there is no start and end, isn't it? There's no start and end. You start at a point, you make a circle, you go to another point, but you're still in the circle. It's not like you can say there is a start, there's the end. And so when we talk about one body starting and ending, or all these Chatur Yugas ending, everything can be comprehended when one realizes it. The other aspect to understand here is that when he says warriors entering the mouth, etc., right? The thing to understand for all of us is to understand, right? We all come out of a womb, right? And one has to visualize ourselves that we are all going in a belt. If you have gone to places where they do things, right? One belt, they pick the things, they go to the next level, etc. We're going in a belt, and that belt goes only in one direction, which is the tomb. So womb to tomb is a unidirectional thing. There is no ifs and buts about it. It's a one-way traffic. So some Swamijis will say, you get a one-way air ticket when you leave the body. Now the question therefore is, between the time I am in the womb, from the womb to the tomb, how I live, the quality of my life is what matters therefore, right? My actions, my attitude, my karma. The more I understand, the more I'm in knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, and I live, so much more the better. Now, how much more we are in that, from womb to tomb, some may be a longer period of time in the belt, some may be lesser. And in this whole period of it, if you see it right, we are all playing a drama. We are playing a certain drama when we are, young. We are playing a certain drama in the corporate life. The drama ends in the corporate life when we retire. It's simply a drama. You just wear a particular hat, you wear a particular dress code, and you come out of that dress code and wear something else. And if you retire, you go to a dhoti, this, that, etc. That other hat is gone, the title is gone, those cards are gone, everything is gone. So everybody has to go through this. So either, so when we look at somebody My grandfather is gone. Later on, my own close kith and kin, my own parents. Then what do you realize? It's only time for me. My time is coming. I don't know when, but it is coming, right? And if I know that it's only tomorrow, how would I live today? We think we're going to live 50 more years. But what if somebody, especially cancer patient, the doctor says you have another month or two, that's it. What does that person do at that time? Does he live the same life as he's been living, he or she? Or they look at it very differently? So these verses to me, other than the fact that it appears gross, is also meant to awaken us, make us realize, yes, running, life is like a rat race, but sometimes you have to just sit down, settle down, calm down, reflect, you know, am I doing the right set of things? Can I do one or things better than what I'm doing earlier? A bit of reflection. Because if we are just running a rat race, that rat race will take us to the tomb also very quickly. So it's a choice that you and I make. The 28th verse, he takes now an example. He takes example of Nadinam Bahavombu Vegaha. The rivers, they start from somewhere in a hill. There is no choice, absolutely no choice that they have to come down, overcome multiple barriers, and they have to enter the ocean waters. Absolutely no choice. It's like the belt for them. It's going through all kinds of things. There is no way the river water gets stagnant. Maybe if it stays stagnant, it may be for a short period of time, right? So therefore, he therefore tells us, you and I are also like a river. A river had a particular form, a certain beauty. And through the waterfalls, you see the beauty. And then it comes down. It loses its shape because it's not, the big river that you saw. It's now probably streams. But ultimately, everything goes towards the end. And the end for it is the ocean. So the names and forms that you and I take, right? A title that we take, um, whatever we take, all of them, similarly, there are times when that name and form is so huge, it's like the big waterfall, Niagara waterfalls. And then the Niagara waterfalls comes into a small stream going somewhere. One is taken out of the job or one goes through retirement, whatever it might be, right? So the life therefore goes through, when we see this thing, right, we have to understand that there is a source from which all of us came, right? Nature being the Pancha Mahabhutas with all the Prakriti elements in it, but ultimately that source that made that happen is still the G is Paramatma, right? Ultimately, we have to merge back into that same source one day. So in between, I might be an executive, I might be a doctor, I might be a homemaker, whatever it is. But I keep losing my identity. That's one thing that we have to realize. The identity that I keep for myself, I'm such and such, I'm such and such. It keeps changing, isn't it? You look back, it's in your own life, right? Are you the same identity that you were 5 years back? And ask yourself 5 years or 10 years from now, will you have the same identity? Yes, maybe from name and form. Even your face looks different, your hair looks different, your teeth looks different. So when we therefore look at, reflect ourselves also as the same river, river goes through all these phases. goes through troubling phases where it is finding it hard to go to the next part because there's a rock blocking it, but somewhere it doesn't give up. It continues to find crevices, small holes through which I can crack through and go. With the sole purpose being I have to merge with the ocean. That is really the essence of this particular so he says here, Tata Tata Tavami Naraloka Veera. Similarly, all the warriors, all the heroes that we are there also enter my mouth. Right? When you look at a Bhishma, if you look at a Drona and all of them, right? When we are talking about them being noble souls in whatever way they did and the kind of skills and the reverence that they all had, the society, when you are seeing them going there, right? For normal souls, one should be humbled by it. So it's actually to bust one's ego. It's all these verses just to bust one's ego. I am this, I am that. Because everything is changing. So two things should come. One is that everything is, going from source to end. Second thing, every second things are changing. Be it my identity, be it my own body is going through a transformation. My mind is going through a transformation. Cells in my body are dying and new ones are coming. So don't even look at what happens at the end when the whole body leaves. But even in between, I'm going through changes, and those changes are also destruction and creation. Destruction and creation. Destruction and creation is not necessarily only that of the body, right? That we think of. It is also about my mind, about even at a core level, at an anatomical level, also there is destruction and creation happening. So yeah, moving on. 29th verse. So it now talks about, gives another example. A moth. Right? So let's say that you're going in, it's raining, it's rainfall time or whatever, right? And you're going in a car somewhere, right? And typically moths come out of nowhere, especially in the rainy season. And you're driving in the night with your headlights on. Next day morning, you switch off, you open your car, and then you see towards the headlight, you see all the dead bodies of those moths clinging onto that light. Why? The moths are captivated by the blazing fire. Its nature is to go towards light. It doesn't know for a fact that it is going to perish. It is, attracted, it just gets sucked in and it perishes. Similarly, we also, right, to say some degree, we also have a will and say, free will, etc. But we are also bound in the context of time and space that we have to go through that mouth of destruction. Vaktrani samudra vegaha, right? So, mouths of discussion. So, just like the moth, therefore, right, the moth is easy to relate to because its life itself is so short, a few hours at best, compared to the years and years that we live. But when you start looking at that thing, right, you also look at, okay, no, that fire, I'm not attracted by that fire, but am I not attracted, desirous of multiple things in my life? Don't I get caught into that web of that desire and get, agitated, angry, etc. during the period? I may not be getting destroyed as physical as a moth has gone, but my mind has gone through destruction. My mind has gone through, depression because something I desired did not get fulfilled, isn't it? That's the way to, look at these verses. Don't take moth as a literal example. Look at it. How does it apply to me? 29th, 30th verse. He says, your Jagat, Jagat Samagram, right? This whole world is, radiating with the illumination, fire, fiery rays of yours. It looks like it's like burning. And then he gives a very gross description. As you're eating all these things, you're licking in enjoyment. Again, it is not to be taken in the literal sense, right? Enjoying here means that, when we also take something that we like to eat, right? We are enjoying. Here it's not that Ishwara is enjoying, killing people or something like that, right? We don't need to take it that way. It is just a poetic way to say that, death also is a place where people go through the other world. That's also another way to look at it. There is a beautiful other world also that is there outside of the body. So he says, you're devouring all worlds with your blazing mouth, with your flaming mouth. All worlds here meaning what? Worlds as in the world that we exist in, even the worlds that are outside our comprehension, worlds that are, other galaxies, whatever. Here he is reflecting the entire universe. Our universe of concept of universe is very limited, right? We only this world, and that too only this hemisphere, this area, that area, right? Here he's describing everything here. So, so so it is one to put in a shock element. So sometimes, you have to put in a shock element for things to happen, isn't it? Tell me an example of when we get a shock element. We've been going suddenly when we go through a blood test, doctor consultation is there. The doctor says this, you have to have this. And you've always been thinking, I'm pakka, I'm doing all this great. It's a shock, right? It tells you suddenly, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do that. So we awaken up. So the shock is also meant to awaken us. Awaken, this world is here that you're living. Reflect on how you're living this world of existence in this body. It's only about that. This whole Vishwarupa thing, other than to visualize it, etc., is to come to terms with one's own life. See the temporariness, and so forth. So Arjuna, therefore, is not able to digest what's happening. And slowly and steadily, he's now going to surrender. The 31st verse, he says, I thought that I will see a peaceful Krishna in the Vishwarupa. Because I've always seen you as a very serene person, always smiling, always, captivating, attractive in your words, etc. But this ferocious form. So really, what is the purpose? What are you? What is the purpose of your form? That is his question. And that's the same thing he wants us to also visualize, reflect. Sometimes we get so caught up in our world of doing things that we don't even understand, why am I here? Why have some people come to my life? Why is it that I'm going through these different experiences, situations? And so once I have a certain purpose, or understand at least some direction, then I just focus on that particular direction. So here, even though when Arjuna is asking the question to Krishna, he's not only asking Krishna about it, which Krishna will definitely answer in the starting from the next verse itself. But it is also to awaken us. Pause, reflect, take time out of your busy schedule. Look at yourself. Right? Life is not about just every second, optimizing the best possible thing and doing 10 things in one time, etc., etc. It's not that. So sometimes it is worthwhile to ponder, reflect on yourself, reflect on what am I doing? Why am I here? All the things that have been happening in my life, was there a reason for all of it? What are the learnings for me from that? Right? So therefore, Arjuna is asking clarity about purpose of Krishna. We have to see also the same thing to understand, get some clarity. And where do we get the clarity typically? When we do our own self-introspection, or when we go to a guru, or we are in the presence of a spiritual master, however it is, always there is a clarity sooner or later. And that's it. We will continue with Sri Bhagavan Vacha from the next session.